This 118
bureaucracy.
wraps up.
Are we ready?
Learning on the fly.
Okay, we gotta start the meeting, guys.
Can I introduce Jeannie real quick, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
Barbara has retired, and so Jeannie is the administrative assistant for our CFO, and she is gonna be taking minutes for us and being a part of our committee group. So, welcome, Jeannie.
Welcome.
Please go easy on her with the, talks.
No massive requests. Okay, hi, welcome to the January 2023 meeting of the Financial Advisory. Has anybody had a minute to look at the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from October.
Do we have a second?
Sorry.
I second it.
Second, great. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? No discussion, I guess we'll take a vote. Anybody online, if you'd be so kind as to turn your mic on. Anyone online, please turn your mic on. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Trustee Sandra? Sandra says aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-6-8-0. We have quorum, I think. Okay, board member.
Mr. Persons is out in Tallahassee with our legislators right now, and so he is, he said he would try to come in by Zoom if he was able to, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to. I think they might be traveling home right now.
They're
Is that where the other board members are as well?
Yes,
That explains,
yes. All board members, superintendent, they're heading back in Tallahassee right now.
that explains responses today. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so we have no board member report today. It's going to be a short day. We have a presentation, small business policy, Miss Malay?
Malaysia?
Sounds great to me. I will pass this down.
Is this the microphone? That's the microphone. Give me a second to get this up and then share the presentation with people on the thing, because I have the worst time doing that.
Well, thank you, everybody. My name is, I'm going to talk for a second while you get it up, Kelly. My name is Susan Malay. I'm the Executive Director of Business Services. First, I want to thank you all for spending your time to commit to the district to help us do a better job of adopting and implementing best practices. So your feedback and input is valuable to our district as a whole, so thank you for your time. I've presented a couple of times before to this group. Maybe some different faces have come and gone on the committee. And about October of last year, I presented a recommendation to adopt a school board policy for small business enterprise policy and then subsequent program implementation. So the goal is to reinvest as much as we can back into the local community by making efforts to increase our outreach to small businesses. In the prior year, so February 2021, a presentation was made to the board by our legal counsel on different types of initiatives we could take. We do not have a minority business policy or program, and so after hearing from the legal team about that, the recommendation was to proceed with a small business program which would capture the minority businesses as well to help reinvest in our small and minority businesses here locally in Lee County. The board took action. We developed that policy. I kind of took it on the road and invited feedback at this group, Equity, Diversity Advisory, and Construction Advisory. The board then adopted that policy and we started program implementation, which is defining what does small mean as part of a small business, and then how would we administer and roll out that. So this is kind of the next iteration of, we've had some meetings and plans, and we are now bringing back to the community our recommendations for rolling out the implementation part of the small business enterprise program. So that kind of catches you up on where we are. So the agenda for today is to talk about the drivers of the program, to give you an update. That's the most important thing, is what has happened since we last chatted, and to let you know about ongoing community feedback and next steps. Please ask any questions at any time. So the drivers for the small business program, of course, are to reinvest in our community, especially as we have our sales tax initiative in place. Anything that we can do to, we are collecting funds from the community. If we can help reinvest those funds into the community to help our local business partners grow. We know that that creates jobs and fosters economic growth. So our update, getting to the important and fun part in my mind, is what we've done to begin with our program implementation. So we have internal committee that met. We invited FGCU Small Business Development Center to participate with us. Ooh, we got some fancy things going on. We do.
How do you do that, Kelly?
I can do just about anything here.
I'm impressed.
That's flash.
Yeah. It looks like somebody's dancing across
Yeah.
the screen.
I think we're about to.
That's called- that's-
I think we're about to
Splash.
Okay.
So it might be more important to keep our people and lose the visual aids, since everybody might have it, so I'll let you guys make the call on that. But maybe not everybody in the room has copies. I did print copies, so if it would be better to go with the old-fashioned way with paper, happy to jump to Plan B.
I like Plan B.
Are you all on the,
On the Zoom call.
those of you on Zoom, did you get the electronic copies of it, and can you bring it up?
I think we're short one.
I'll have to just,
I didn't know how many, but I think I can find a way to pull up my purse.
Sure.
Short one.
Thing.
I have one more.
Oh, good.
I'll give up mine.
Okay.
I'll do the digital.
Gregory?
Okay.
Okay.
Keep going. Okay. I was gonna walk over.
I figured with all these wires, it'd be better not to mess with it.
Okay. You were smart enough.
Ready to go.
That you can look at.
Have it.
You don't have it.
Save
Okay.
it for
Let me resend it to the two of you. I guess, let me ask, are you near a computer, where you can bring it up if you need to?
What, for everyone?
Yes.
I don't do it either.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't remember getting it. Send it to everyone.
okay. Sure. I thought I said it, but.
It's a good thing you brought a backup copy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Never know, so.
This backup plan was a good one.
And I took a guesstimate at the number, so. So another thing to do to increase bandwidth would to be not to show visual pictures of the people on the Zoom call, just have their icon up, and that helps with bandwidth. That would work.
If we were
Got a
having-
break, did everybody see me on TV on Link News?
What'd you do?
Well, what'd you do now? What, I mean, what, good, bad? I mean,
I was in the FAA shutdown mess, and they interviewed me about 8 o'clock that Wednesday morning, last Wednesday, the 11th.
Yep, I'm gonna take care
Oh
of it.
yeah, my wife flew out on the 12th with my daughter and she's like, oh boy, it's just gonna be god awful, look what
Well,
happened.
we gave up, they canceled our next leg of the journey, I didn't wanna sit in Chicago, so I just said, this on, we're not going to the vacation, we'll do it another time, so. So remember, you knew me when?
Yeah.
Remember us little people when you make it to the big time.
That's right. My wife was running the other way, and I said, why not?
I'm happy, we go away next week and I don't have to worry about there being that problem.
Well, we've decided that flying Southwest to Portland and only has 2 flights a day is not Portland, Oregon is not the airline to fly.
No.
You need more flights to that city because they canceled it.
Kelly, it's not looking too good.
Yeah, it's not wanting to connect.
Are they at least still on there on the,
They're on. Let me just see.
what were they doing up in Tallahassee? I saw they approved the budget for everybody to go up, what was it, last week or something? But, or were they just meeting the?
I was
the
scared, I was
lobbyists?
watching the Florida channel, I was scared.
You was frightened? You scared? What are you afraid of? Just overall.
I just see some wrong-headedness.
I know.
I just see.
There's wrong direction, no matter what side you believe in. There's just wrong direction from both sides, so it doesn't really matter. Everybody should just be upset. That's how I look. I don't watch it. I stop paying attention to the news and paying attention and just affecting as many lives as possible in a positive way. If you can just do that, all these other things, too many people have private agendas.
They do. That's why I wanted to share that article with you, because my friend, who's a public adjuster, I hired him. He's with that. I mean, read the article and send it. It's good. Good information on the real estate. I mean, I'm not a realtor.
Okay.
It's good information. I mean, I
I just sent it, so you should be getting it momentarily.
don't.
Everyone should be getting it.
Well, I look at the monthly or quarterly, whatever it is, updates on hiring and firing, you know, the HR report,
Mhm.
how many people are going out. And, you know, half the reasons are just impersonal, they're just the amount of hiring. The HR staff has got to be going nuts.
That's great.
By the way, we should give props to the benefits department. They did, I saw an email before it got shut down, that they did do something to begin the process to make sure that some of the children were covered of the staff.
Yeah.
And I give them grief, I'm gonna give them props when they deserve it, and it's a good start. It's not what I would've liked, but it's a start and
Well,
we
you would
started.
think, though, it would be more of a shopping cart type approach to benefits, because some of them have them through their spouse.
Yeah.
So maybe they want vision and dental, you know, and this one wants life insurance, and I've even seen some where you can buy a little more retirement, or you can buy an extra day of vacation.
It's true.
You know, and maybe, you know, let's blame the union, what the hell? You know, if the unions decided this is what we're gonna negotiate with, so
It's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
I have a very serious issue with it because I believe the employees are being treated unfairly. And I
Oh.
believe that we would have a better retention rate, which would improve many other areas.
Yes.
And the cost of hiring and
Well,
terminations is just horrific.
There's a pop-up box on that laptop on top of the presentation. I
Want
don't
me to
know
bring
if
it to you?
that's related to it at all?
I don't, that was just a Zoom.
Oh, okay.
It's just zooming in, I don't think it's.
It looks like it had a pop-up message.
You would think the school system would have amazing internet.
We've been having trouble
Our
staying connected lately, so.
Well, don't we have Microsoft certification in half the schools in the district? I know we got them
Yeah.
at.
They teach it at all the high schools, I know that.
Yeah,
Okay, well, it's not letting me in. I sent it to everybody in case, so that, so you should have it electronically, as well, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll try and, since you might not have it visually online, I'll try and do my best to.
Paint the picture.
Right.
We get it.
Okay, all right, so back to our update on where we are with implementing the small business enterprise program. So, we have an internal team that met, we invited FGCU Small Business Development Center. We have partnered with them in a couple of areas, and that's really the updates that I have for you today. We asked them to help us do research on our community and help define what small is and as a small business. And we have partnered with them to administer registering and getting recertified as a small business. They're doing that anyway. Really good match here. They want small businesses to join them and offer a portfolio of services. We're helping drive small businesses who want to work with the district to them so that they can get those services. So we're real happy with that partnership.
are you partnering with the school of entrepreneurship?
So
Dr. K. yeah.
Okay.
So we are working with the FGCU Small Business Development Center as the primary entity that collects the data and registers and manages small businesses and offers them different support methods.
Kalanui, that's her name.
I have a question about that. You have all these students going through the system from VPK all the way through high school. Many go away to college, some learn trades and go to work for people, and some start their own businesses. Now, that would be, in my opinion, the definition of a small business. A former student of the system, recently out of school, let's just say in the last 5 or 10 years, whatever you choose, and reaching out to those students that can offer a service, whether it's in plumbing or electrical or home inspections or insurance. Would it not be a great way to give back to the community, to bring some of these former students back in the form of trying to assist their business and funneling business from the Lee County School District to them? Whether it's you're soliciting teachers from outside of Lee County to move here to fill our shortage of 500. Now, those teachers need houses, those teachers need insurance, those teachers need a plumber, an electrician. You understand what I'm getting at. But why don't we look at reaching out to former students still in the area that have a trade in their own small business, as you define it, whatever that is, and try to give them the play that way. You're now assisting somebody that not only was in the system, but now in their life, you're helping them grow to become something more.
So I think that's an excellent idea. I think that we're currently reaching out to everyone in the community who is establishing a small business, but I think the targeted outreach to graduates from the system would also be an added value.
You have all their emails, most of them, and you have their former addresses. It wouldn't be a lot, the email would be the easiest. Because I know that the system has customer relationship manager software. It's called a different thing through the system, but it still manages all these email addresses, including the parents. And to target former students, let's just say in the last 10 years, with a simple email, the email costs nothing. We're looking at a zero cost to the district, but the return to the district is very, very high, because you could also bring those former students in that own their own business to talk at career days and stuff, how they were a part of the system. Look how young they're, the kids 25, 22, 19, 20, own their own business, and look at how they found success. Not everybody needs to go to college.
So,
That's true.
I think I've added that as a note for outreach. I will say that we have to keep in mind that this is small businesses that the district is hiring. So there are a lot of businesses out there where the district might not be hiring for that particular service. For example, a taxi cab company. Somebody may have started their own business for that, and they're local and small, but it's not something the district is purchasing. But I have made a list of, a note of adding that.
There's a lot of benefits to it.
I think it would be helpful if I understand the process, that the Small Business Development Center just perhaps as part of their data collection of these companies,
Yes,
just ask, did you attend Lee County School
okay,
District? And that way, at least you
Excellent.
can start to identify who might fit that category.
perfect.
And the 10-year plans, I mean, saying 5 years, someone could be right on the cusp, but 10 years is, I think, reasonable. But I mean, think of all the benefits the impact you can make on their lives for another time,
Right.
and the impact that those former students can make on the lives of students, staff, and people within the district, and how they could even help the district and give back that way willingly at this point, because, it's mutually beneficial in every way.
Excellent, great idea. Was there another question?
Well, not so much question, but commentary. I mean, in addition to Daryl's suggestion, I mean, there's other groups that are already established out there. There's scores, retired business people.
I'm a mentor.
That is a fantastic organization that could help with years of experience and not just new, maybe folks that know stuff about technology, but the older folks that are tried, true pencil paper.
True craftsmen at their trade.
And they truly have mastered whatever they've mastered over the years, because they're retired by now. And this particular group, I think, would be wonderful to reach out for what you're talking about. that type of thing.
Okay, great. Sir, did you have a comment?
No, he's right, he's on the money.
All right, so if I,
Can I jump back in? I think last time I heard you speak, if I remember right, you were emphasizing, or I thought you were emphasizing construction type contracts for small business. Are you looking at everything from plumbing to lawn maintenance to the taxi cab drivers, the shuttle guy? There's 4 or 5 people in the budget that are couriers, you know, so that, I'm not trying to call you out on that particular example, but really it could be, you know, rather than paying a government employee, put a contract in. So the next part then is, if we're expanding beyond just construction, how does, you know, I thought I heard too that you were holding seminars or whatever on how to get a contract with the district.
Correct.
Okay, so are we still doing that on a quarterly basis, or?
I would really love to go through my presentation. Because you're asking all kinds of questions on the next subsequent slides. And I know that you guys have all, some of you have seen it in advance because I sent it out, or I shared it a week ago. So maybe that's why, you know, you're kind of done. And so I'll try not to be long-winded in my discussion of where we are. But the key thing to make sure that you understand is the progress what we've made and launching the program, and your ideas are critical to how we launch the program.
The only other thing that I would mention that would be a concern for me personally is that it's proportional to the community. In other words, if you're going to bring people in, well, so many white people in the community, so many black people in the community, so many Hispanics, I think that it should be proportional funding to what is in the community.
So I think that what I'd like to say is at a high level, everyone is invited to participate. The vendors who are already registered with the state of Florida as a minority-owned or small businesses, we have been using that list monthly here to reach out and invite vendors to participate. And FGCU has the vendors from a 5-county area. So they are already conducting all kinds of outreach and going out and
Let
presenting.
me just put a fine point, I'm talking about proportionality, the funding, the proportionality of how it's doled out.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about
So
specifically.
just to say funding is competitive solicitations competing for the work, and it's not.
Oh, so this is within a competitive bid process?
Correct.
Yes.
I would take a totally opposite approach to a lot of this, what we're talking about here, because I think the number one, I think it's great that we have more local businesses providing services to the extent they're able to provide equivalent or better service than somebody outside the community. But to get into the weeds, like, well, we've got to be proportional with this group and that group, which we're not a charity.
Right.
The district is not a
Agreed.
charity.
Well, if it's going out for
Yeah.
bid, it probably has those insurances.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main
So that's a
issue, you
move.
brought it up and I'll let you do that. It's getting the information out to
Correct.
all the businesses so they know, and trying to make it easier, right? Because I am a small business and we don't have the staff to bid for these big RFPs.
agree.
We just don't have the horsepower to do it. So to the extent you can streamline it, you know, that's key.
And the key thing is the Small Business Development Center, the resources they have are training and helping fill out the paperwork for a bid,
And I work with
helping you get a loan for your business. So there are so many support features available through the Small Business Development Center. And we are now adding to that and saying, everyone who's already there and everybody who we're going to continue to attract, let's educate you about how you can offer your services to the district, compete for them, and potentially be awarded for business with the district, which is the second or first largest employer.
I got it back up.
Whoop, look at Kelly.
So whenever you're ready.
Okay, so we were talking about our progress working with FGCU. The first thing we need to do is define small, so I'm going to share that with you. And then continue to gather feedback on our definitions before we roll out our program, and then continue with collecting data and community outreach. Next slide. Sorry, I went too far. Okay, so our partnership with FGCU is with the Regional Economic Research Institute and the Small Business Development Center. So those are the two entities at the college that we are working with. So the couple of thresholds that we look at to define small are number of employees and annual revenue. So what these folks did is they went out and did their economic research. How many businesses do we have in Lee County that are small businesses, that are minority owned, that are this many employees, and all that data. And together, they helped us define the number of employees, the kind of layers or benchmark levels for a number of employees and annual revenues. And we're going to go and look at those numbers and get your feedback on what those numbers are. So the results of the FGCU economic analysis is that they came up with 5 categories of size: micro, SBE 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. So each are defined by the number of employees they have, and then we can see how many of our businesses in Lee County fall into that category. And if we group the micro, SBE 1 and SBE 2, you can see that 93% of the what we're calling small businesses in Lee County fall into those categories of having 20 or fewer employees. So for the first area metric to define small is 20 or fewer employees. So that's one of 3. Next slide. Next, we looked at annual revenues for each of the firms that are considered small. And again, we had these kind of bands of the amount of sales for each of the firms. And we have over 500 firms with an average revenue of just over $1 million. So we were looking to set the threshold to $2 million to allow for inclusion above the average revenue, which is $1.1 million. So we were trying to be inclusive. So if I can just get through the 3 definitions and then get some feedback on that. And then the third area is how long do folks need to be in business to work with the district? Probably the month they're starting is not the ideal time to become a vendor with the district. There's some startup pains. So we kind of came up with the 222 numbers here, kind of easy to remember is we're recommending and inviting community feedback, including yours, on a small business definition would be a firm that has been registered to conduct business for 2 years at a minimum, has no more than 20 employees, and has no more than $2 million in maximum annual revenue for the most recent 3 years. So those, and then we would have folks recertify every 3 years. Every other year it would just be kind of an administrative burden on the applicants as well as on FGCU for maintaining. So these are the areas that we're considering, the terms that we're using to define small for small business. I hope the next slide says questions. Yes. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Did we get these right? Talk to me.
No.
No.
All right, talk to me. Why?
2 million is way too small.
Okay.
And I think, just looking at the way they ran the numbers, I mean, think about how many little restaurants you have, how many little LLCs. I mean, I don't think they can just take like all these businesses and say, oh, well, the average is less than, whatever it was, whatever the number was. I mean, the other thing is, you could probably throw out 90% of those businesses out of your base because you're never going to use them. You're not going to contract with, the franchise owner of, Cantina Laredo or these small things. I mean, I think you got to throw out 90% of them that don't even apply to what you're looking for, and then you got to take that population. And I think the number's got to be, to have a company that can meaningfully provide the services the district needs and have the wherewithal to do it, I think it's got to be 10 million, at least.
Other thoughts?
I would say it depends on the task at hand. I know you want to make this program, but I mean, have you started with what are the needs first? So that we can target.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
business
What,
unit.
what are the needs of the
Because
district?
you're opening it
That's-
up, like this gentleman says, I'm sorry, Ken, it's not gonna matter to half.
I
or
think you're
better.
throwing out a whole bunch of companies that are above 2 million that you would need.
Yeah,
To
I would
to
start
put all
with
these
a
little
needs
guys in
based,
that will never provide you services.
you know, what
So
are the
issue
needs of
is-
this?
Right. The issue is that there isn't a need for small businesses to support the district other than we want to invest back in the community. So it's
Wow.
not like there's a dearth of, I would say that the need is the entrepreneurship and the nature of new businesses starting up would be beneficial to the district's growth. The reason that we mentioned in a prior meeting that the construction trades, 80% of small and minority businesses are in the construction trades. So our thought was, that's where the vast majority of small businesses in the state of Florida reside. So what we have been looking at is what businesses can we carve out? In fact, what we're doing is downsizing, breaking up our bigger jobs and carving out a piece to make it smaller so that a small business can come on and grow and the district can help them grow and understand about finances and billing and payroll and all of those things. So the need is to invest in the community.
I mean, what about the cost to the district of spreading that out into so many small vendors? I mean, what's that cost?
Well, it's a very fine point of where can we do that?
I could see requirements being placed on bigger outfits.
Yeah,
And
to
that's-
sub out to.
So that, yeah, you have to bring so many people from your area. You know, putting requirements on, because to shoot for the small stuff, I don't see where the school district, the needs for the school district aren't really with those small guys.
Well, let me give you an example. So we've been studying where might this work?
Yeah.
Grease trap cleanings in kitchens,
Okay?
okay? Landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
These are things where we have in that construction and trades community a need to service our school kitchens to clean grease traps. And kind of at the same time we were developing the small business policy, we had this bid on the street before people came in.
Is this a
Guy had
small
his-
business policy or how to bid policy?
A small business enterprise policy that we are going to reinvest through the procurement process to get small businesses to conduct business with the district.
So I thought originally, I misunderstood it 2 years ago, that the idea here was to increase the amount of business the district does with local companies.
Yes.
And because for me, you know, looking as a business owner, and we actually got a request, a notice recently, hey, we're gonna be putting out a request for negotiation for marketing. Would you guys be interested in participating? And I said, yeah, I might have to resign. But, you know, but, and I was like, wow, that's cool. We never got anything like that before. You
Are
know?
you a registered small
Well, no,
business?
because we're bigger than the
Okay.
number. But the point is that we got that, which was really cool, because why should you deal with a marketing company in New York
Right.
if you have a company here that can do it, right? So I thought the original idea was to just, in all things being equal, let's try to get more of our business and our needs satisfied by local companies. But this feels like, wow, it's getting really small and it seems like really expensive for the district to administer this thing. And I don't know, it just,
I apologize. I'm new to the committee and don't have the history of some previous presentations and that kind of thing, so bear with me if I'm asking dumb questions.
You're good.
No dumb question.
But to Ken's question, or to his point, would this program exclude his company because it's more than $2 million of revenue?
So what we are looking to do is identify, looking at the small businesses in our community and a Venn diagram, where does it intersect with the needs for the district? And then where can we carve out a bid that would be exclusive. You could only bid on the grease trap cleaning for the districts if you have, your revenue hasn't exceeded 2 million annually or whatever that number was. And I will tell you, you are the second group that I've done this presentation with, and both groups have said 10 million.
Okay.
Okay, so this is community feedback. This is, we're running it out there to see what people are saying, and you're the second group to say 2 million's too low. So we've got the data, so could you go back to that chart where it had some circles on it with numbers? One more, that one? Yeah, so it might be that we need to take a look at, the SBE3 and just expand that bracket and have FGCU tell us how many people at the next level, SBE3, what is the revenue threshold there? Is that the 10 million? Is it 25 million? So I think we're just talking about possibly expanding and being more inclusive than less.
It's also tricky when you start talking about numbers of employees, because you could have, it depends on the industry, right?
Right.
Some are highly employee intensive, others have a few employees with larger revenues, so that's a little bit tricky.
Right, so the construction industry, for example, they might have a dozen people in their company and they might build our $50 million school.
Exactly.
Are they a small business? I would say not. If they're building one project as a $50 million school,
Has locale come into the realm of criterion for you guys putting this thing together?
locale,
Yeah, in other words, they have to be within this local area in order to.
Live in the 5-county area, as FGCU was looking at.
so the data that we studied has that, but there are laws that we must follow that we cannot, for example, require that only a Lee County resident or owned company can bid on something. There are rules that prohibit that from occurring. So there are a lot of things that come together. And so I go back to the landscaping and the grease trap, who's living locally that's offering that job that we could help them grow and expand. And it's a win-win because it's a need that the district has. So we're looking at what are we buying, who's selling it, that's a small business, and can we
Okay,
move forward
so
with that?
let's say you went out for grease trap cleaning, and you get a bid from a company. You're not even gonna give this is totally hypothetical, probably doesn't use an example, but a company in Miami that is a larger plumbing company that would want to bid on the project, but they have 20 million in revenues. They wouldn't even have an opportunity to bid on it?
That is correct. So what we're looking to do is identify district needs, where small businesses are interested in offering that, and the criteria in the bid would say, in order to submit a bid, you need to be registered with FGCU as a school district small business.
So if the local registered small business was twice as expensive as the Miami company, you would hire them instead of the Miami company?
Not necessarily.
Because the Miami company would never have an opportunity to bid on it.
Right, but we already have a grease trap bid and we know what the rates are. So when we receive bids that are not cost reasonable, we would reject the bid and have a do-over.
So I guess going back, again, I just was thinking that the idea was to have community outreach in order to at least give local companies the ability to know about projects, to bid on projects, and to make the bidding process more streamlined so that smaller companies that didn't have the wherewithal to address large RFPs could bid, So more invitation to negotiate rather than RFPs. But I didn't think it was going to be totally closing out bidding from, it seems to me it should be open to everybody to bid, to get the best. And if a small company can bid a better rate, great, they should
So
get it done.
that's actually how we've operated in the past, and I'll give you an example of why that hasn't resulted in the outcomes that we would like, which is to have more small businesses. So in the construction area, we have what are called continuing contracts. So it's a 3-year contract. We have one for plumbing, one for mechanical engineering. There are 7 of them. And so we bid and say, we'd like to have people on our continuing contract for the next 3 years to offer plumbing services. So what we had done previously is split it up and said projects up to 200,000 and projects up to 2 million. And guess what? The big guys bid on both of them and won both of them because their presentations were better, their quality of the submittal was better. And so all in all, the big companies did best on both the big and the small ones. So going forward, what we're talking about doing, another example of changing up how we're bidding is taking that continuing contract for plumbing and having the ability to bid on it only for small businesses, up to some number, $300,000 of work, small projects. And projects over $300,000 to $4 million, they'll be open to everybody to bid. So what that does is it just carves out a little piece for a smaller company to get in the door and start doing business with the district and, and potentially growing. The goal would be for them to outgrow and be able to bid on the larger of the two. So does that example help at all?
Well, it does, but I think it seems a little bit wacky to preclude other people from bidding, and it feels like it's gonna end up costing the district more for some of these projects. And I go back again to saying that I think the best step would be just to make people aware of the opportunities. Now, if you want to score people, the other way you could do is you could say, okay, let's have a score if you're local, and let's have a score if you're small. And, okay, so all things being equal, if you're a small local company, maybe you get that little extra bump that would put you over the big guy. So I wouldn't like
Just like
conclude people,
standard,
but I would just
just
set
like
this.
standard criteria,
scoring.
you go for a bid on the street. Are you a minority business? Majority owned by blacks or women or
Yeah, then you get a
whatever,
better
you
score.
know? So those criteria already handled somewhere else in the public bidding process, right?
So those kind of criterions exist
So then what
already.
we're talking about is outreach to the locals and teaching them how to do this stuff.
Correct.
And make it easier, not have so many.
But to me, this is like a solution in search of a problem. You know, because we have bidding already and, you know, highest and best and, you know, if there's, to want to go to a scoring system, you get an extra point because you're local,
Right.
get a few extra points because of whatever, I could see that,
So that occurs already.
you know?
But
Well,
what
but
we
you
are
get-
not doing is we are not attracting, we want to increase our small business participation.
Different point.
But
You're talking about managerial preference when it comes to the community, okay? We are not doing that here at all, from what I could see. Managerial preference to way of bidding for anything in the community. It would be like, okay, we need good managers. So what do the managers want in their lives? They want good schools, they want this, they want that. So to get that talent, you gotta have that stuff. The community has to invest in this stuff so that they can bring the higher stuff in. And to me, I don't see, I see a project and, oh, we're gonna give Hertz this much or whatever, and they're just laying themselves out there. I say you build the community and through attraction, bring people through attraction and not through, you know, giving stuff away. Make them wanna
I
be
do have to
here.
clarify
Make them wanna.
that our selection criteria does include, because the legal advice that we've been given is to say, if you can respond to the plumbing need within 1 hour of our service call, then you get more points. So if you're coming from Miami, you don't get as many points. That already exists in our scoring system.
could we go farther though and say, are you 20% minority subcontractors? Are you 20% women owned?
Right.
So some things.
Yeah, have some criteria
So-
for the big outfits.
Right, then you move them, or you can always move them up and
Right.
down.
And then they got the hassle of making the arrangements
Right.
instead
So
of
we
putting it
are-
on the county.
Right, another thing that you mentioned earlier that I didn't address yet is our contract for building schools, right? Those are our biggest jobs.
Yes, understood.
We already have in there goals for minority participation. And I think it's 10% on most of it, okay? So that is another one of the two things that I would say are currently in place that the district is embracing to support that. And then there's another point I was gonna make, there's another question. Did you have a question?
Susan, you said, trying to paraphrase, that this is all coming about because we, as a district, are two things. One, we want to do more business with, quote, small businesses, whatever that's defined as. And two, we're not doing that today. We're not attracting small businesses in the community. Am I saying
I'm
that
not sure,
correctly?
so for the past 5 years, we've been downloading regularly the state of Florida's small business registered vendors. And when we send out a solicitation, we go to that list and we invite those vendors to participate. So there have, and we.
But they're not, we're not
I
getting.
would say that they are,
Oh,
but if they are competing with the large construction firms,
They can't compete.
they can't compete.
Mhm.
So
But
we,
that implies that they're more expensive,
no,
or they're
because,
less
no.
capable.
so a small plumbing firm is not able to bid to build a school.
You
Right.
wouldn't use them anyway.
But we do want to use them to do the plumbing in the school, and so we would,
For a specific job.
That's
For
a separate
a-
bid. That's
A specific job.
so we could either do a separate job, or we could put incentives and directions in our contracts for our primes on requiring participation, which is the path that we have been
But
taking.
I'm confused with what you said. You said one was plumbing for a big new project for a new school, and then you said, but what about repairing and responding to plumbing needs after the school's built?
That could be
Those would be
different
two
group of
separate
contractors.
They are two separate contracts.
So why wouldn't the small guy be able to compete for the second contract, but not the big
Because
school building?
when we build a school, we have one contract with the prime contractor who builds the school, and we cannot overreach into their subcontracting. We can set parameters for them, and we do.
How's
I'm
that
still
right?
confused. We're talking
So-
about future plumbing
All right,
and construction.
Hang on a quick second. So in my mind, right now, we have centralized plumbing, HVAC, electrical, whatever, for one contract for the whole district, right?
One contract with 7 awardees.
Okay, so if, what I think, what in my mind is, okay, it doesn't make sense to break that plumbing contract up and say, you know, let's bid on just maintaining Estero High School. Let's bid on just Dunbar. Now that's gonna be more work, but that's the way you're gonna get the small guys.
There you go.
And the same way with the landscape. You know, a landscape company with 20 employees could probably handle one school. They can't handle 10.
Right.
Probably couldn't even do 2 unless they're co-located.
And go like brother taking out the loans for the equipment.
So-
The most successful method that we've had of growing small businesses is through the continuing contracts, for example, for plumbing. So we divide the plumbing up between $0 to $200,000 jobs, which no bonding is required, and $2,000 to $4 million, which bonding is required. So the firms that can't bond for that much for the first couple of years might work with the district. What we're saying is if we carve that out and only the smaller firms could bid on it, not right now, both the small and the large firms can bid on it. So if we only allow the small firms to bid, they built up, they get big enough, and then they can even go and bid on the larger.
What's your experience with that in terms of the cost of those contracts, the cost of the district? Is the cost the same or more or less?
I would say, I can't say that I've done a cost analysis on that. I will say that the smaller companies, you know, when you call, you know, vendor A is the biggest one in Lee County. Well, that vendor doesn't want to go fix one toilet in Estero High School. So we have a list of 10 vendors, and the vendor A that might have to do all the replumbing for the new chiller that's coming in might do that, whereas vendors 2 through 6 might be divided up to the schools and go to, you know, I'm in Cape Coral, I go to my Cape Coral schools and work on them. And that's what we're doing now, but the challenge is, the big guys get the big bid on the little stuff, which gives us fewer little firms to bring on board. And we're trying to get more smaller firms so that they have greater opportunities for growth. And I will tell you this, since I've been here, one of the success stories I can tell you is Tobler Construction Company. When I started working with them, they were very small. They started as a continuing contract under 200. They went to the next one up, and now they are joint venture building a school with Owen Ames Kimball. That's a success story.
That's
We'd
good
like
for-
to.
But that's good for them.
For them.
How did it help the district?
District, exactly.
I mean, because like I go back to work, if the district isn't a check, it's fine for the district to say, hey, we're a member of the community, let's try to help out, local
I agree.
businesses. But I mean, it's not like, you're not small business development at
Exactly.
HCCU, you're
I
the school
agree.
district of Lee County.
That's
We-
right.
We need to do things to optimize the cost structure.
And I would say that
No,
every one of those was competitively awarded and won on a competitive nature.
Well, that's great, then. That's
That's the way it should.
perfect, yeah.
Can you put a requirement in these big contracts? Because the government did it for years. When you're building an airplane, you're telling them $35, $50, $100 million, that 20%, has to be minority contractors. You can,
Proportionality.
yeah, so can you ask the legal
Great
people to
question.
say, can I put not just potential or, this is what we would like, hey, here's what it is. So when you submit your proposal, you gotta show us these 5 small businesses are gonna be doing these pieces.
So, in February of 2021, our legal team presented to the board what we can and cannot do with minority participation. And unless and until we do an investment that demonstrates that we have a population that is underserved in the district, we cannot institute those. We can institute those standards. We are not a federal agency, so the state rules apply to us. And if we, so that is what we would need to do for that approach.
Devil's in the details.
There are so many laws and rules that we have to comply
At a
with.
$2.5 billion budget, and it's probably gonna be closer to 3 this year by the time all the hurricane stuff comes in. You're bigger than probably a third of federal agencies, so that seems,
Traditional.
that seems, I'd like to see that, the legal team go after that again. My personal.
So their February of 2021 is the entire presentation. It's been revisited with our current attorney. There is a law, and in order to do that, we would have to conduct that study. And the board's direction was, instead of that study, proceed with the small business enterprise policy. So that has been vetted and the direction given by the board.
Okay, so can we make a recommendation to the board that they ask their lobbyist up in Tallahassee to look into this? Is there something we could do legislative-wise?
So you're making a motion to do, we have to make a motion to put that through,
Just,
I don't think,
to make it formal so that it would go before the board, yes, it would need to be a motion.
yeah.
I have no problem
I
with it
mean,
if
I have a
everyone,
question why would emphasize minorities. I mean, as long as everybody has the same ability to compete, what's the difference?
What's the difference?
mean,
I agree.
understand that. I mean,
What?
it's like, to me, it's all about people being aware of the opportunities and making it easy
I
for
agree
them to
with
bid.
Tim,
That's-
Yeah, I think more conferences where you teach them how to bid, how to
especially if
work.
you're
And,
countywide.
some of this is buzzword bingo.
And I was very partnering with the
Yeah.
small business, let them do that work, let the Small Business Development Center, they do it anyway,
There you
let them outreach. And that's
And
perfect
that,
partner.
actually, FGCU has sat in our vendor training and our procurement training and our bid training. And so they are writing their materials to train small businesses so that when they come forward to register with them, they say, hey, let us help you with this bid. Are you aware of this
And
bid?
they should be telling you, okay, we met with our constituents and this is what they said the problem is with the bidding process. Here's how we recommend you streamline it and make it easier. Maybe you put it online, you just fill it out on a website and off it
I used to
goes.
go to the Dodge room all the time, you know?
Well, so how, who said it's not worth doing unless you're gonna measure it? So do we have metrics that show in 2019, we were 2% small business and now we're at 2.5%? Are we making progress or?
Right, so that's part of our metrics that we want to establish. Currently, when a vendor registers, historically, they have been given the option to tell us if they're a minority or woman-owned or a small business, right? Well, how can you say small business when small is not defined? So the first thing is to define small. And then as we roll this out, we will solicit all of our registered vendors and ask them, are you minority? Are you woman-owned? Are you small, based on these criteria? If you are, we'd like you to go to FGCU so that you can be eligible to bid on small projects with the district.
I like you. You're very nice, you present well. I just think that this is a problem in search of a solution, or not a solution in search of a problem, because
I
you know
wrote
what?
that down.
If I'm a person in business here, okay, I'm gonna look and turn over every rock that there is, okay, to go find and make some money. All right, I used to go into the Dodge room, I was bidding against companies way bigger than me. It was me and my buddy, okay? But I was there, and I ran through the numbers, and I went through the process, and I put my bid in just like everybody else. You know, I think the outreach is a good idea. I think some criterion for the big guys that keep on getting, you know, maybe they gotta hire a couple local firms or whatever, you know, but to equal so many of their workforce, okay? But you keep on saying something that really hits me, and I don't mean to get into any psychobabble BS, but you keep on saying things like, we wanna do this and we wanna do that. What is it business of the school system to bring people in so that they could do business and contribute? I mean, other than the purchasing process.
So we are a member, we are a large part of this community. And this
Understood.
community has backed us by passing a sales tax that is focused explicitly on construction, maintenance, safety and security, and technology initiatives.
Mhm.
Our community has stepped up to the plate and said, we're gonna invest in our schools. And so now
You
that we've
voted for it.
collected that money, if you voted for it, we're saying, we're taking that from your pockets. The people who are paying that, is there a way to, if they're paying to help us build schools, can't they help us build schools too, as part of their business?
I don't see why they're not.
That's fine.
That's fine.
We're not
I'd like to see
saying
the
that.
teachers get more money, frankly. That's what I'd like to see.
You won't get a fight from this committee on that one in any way, shape, or form. Joey's watched me since 2016 fight that battle.
Feels
We
like
haven't
it's.
heard from anybody on
2015.
the Zoom call. Is there anyone who would like to add any comments?
The only comment I have thus far is this will go through the same protocols as the normal bid award process for the small businesses. Meaning, is it the same selection committee, same controls in place?
Yes, the competitive solicitation process would be the same for whether we were selecting a small business or not. Good question.
And it's the same individuals in purchasing that is doing this?
So purchasing is never on the evaluation committee. Purchasing facilitates the department that is making the purchase, and each bid is different. So when we have a painting bid, the supervisor of painting is on that team along with others. When we do a plumbing bid, the supervisor of plumbing is on that bid. And procurement facilitates gathering the requirements, reaching out to the community, looking up and finding businesses we might not have contacted before, getting the word out, getting the proposals in, and then the department who needs to use that service, so maintenance if they're hiring plumbers, maintenance then evaluates the proposals that are received, and then procurement is just the contract and takes it to the board.
I like, one of the things I heard though is let's look at the process of submitting a proposal. If we can do that online, because even the government 15 years ago put all applications online.
Streamlining the
So you
system.
can copy that in, and that's what, you know, what Ken was talking about. He doesn't have enough employees to fill out a 100-page RFQ, request for proposal, whatever you wanna call it. So if we can do that, and what I found about doing the jobs online is I could keep everything in a Word document and just copy it over, rather than have to rewrite everything all the time. So I saved half my time And everybody that I've mentored lately, I told them the same way, keep your resume there so you can just cut and paste pieces into it. So if we can cut the RFP submittal process, or make it electronic, you know, and I'm not asking for buzzword bingo, because I don't want to do that, but the idea of, you know, you got a piece of paper that shows your license, you got a piece of paper that shows your insurance, you know, it's already scanned in, I'm sure you've got it electronically.
So for the past 10 years, all of our bids have been online, and now we only accept online submittals because everything is online.
What's the average proposal length, how many pages?
The forms that we are required by law to complete is the problem. So you have to fill out your public entities crime form. Is the owner of your company ever been sued by the federal government for blah, 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 blah. You have to have your drug policy for your community. So there are probably a dozen forms that have to be filled out. So the education piece is really important for that. But everything is available electronically, you're notified electronically, you submit electronically.
What does that mean? Does that mean an email or does that mean an
No.
actual website?
No, so are you familiar with Demand Star and Onvia and the online bid tools? That's us, that's where we are. We're
Okay.
playing with the big guys.
One more thing. So, right now, I'm a regular small business. I've been submitting now for a year, 2 years. And I have all those forms that I've completed. I've downloaded them to my computer, they're filled with PDFs. Do I have to fill out a new one every bid, or can I just take what I had? and
So
send it in?
that's a great point for references. We allow you to, we retain for some number of years. So if you're bidding multiple times, and
Okay,
you've already got 3 references on file, and those are the same 3 we want to use, you tell us in the bid process, and we'll pull them and use them again. But you're John Hancock saying that you agree to the terms of this contract, that needs to be on every single one.
is that electronic
Yes,
signature
it
or what?
is. Yes. We only accept bids online.
Okay.
So we.
So 6 months ago, I completed my, you know, I've never been arrested for. I got an electronic signature on it, I kept it on the side, and I just take that PDF with the electronic signature and submit it for the new bid.
That one you can't, because it's been 6 months, and I don't know if you've been arrested in the
Oh.
past 6 months. So
Okay.
that, there is the nuances of those forms that we can
You're,
do,
you're screwed, buddy.
we are reusing. Those forms that by law we're required to do every time we are.
Yeah. Do you require, we had a problem with the CDD, we couldn't get contractors to do certain things because they wouldn't certify that they had all US legal residents. They weren't necessarily citizens, but legal residents. Do you require that? It's, I forget the name.
So E-Verify is the
Yes,
program that
E-Verify,
you,
yeah.
that's by law, we are required that you have to hire US citizens in the state of Florida. That's the requirement. So that was a new form that was added not too long ago.
Right. And so, again, okay, I'm done.
So-
Sorry.
Government purchasing is complex, it's slow. It takes, I say paperwork, there's lots of forms, and it's not fun. We are trying to figure out how to get FGU support, our support to automate, streamline, and get there faster and make it easier for the end user.
Could you hire a
This
small
idea-
business to check their
This type
credentials?
of bidding, public bidding, is done all over the United States. Florida has a particular issue. And there's reasons why. And the devil's in the details. I'll tell you a little story, real quick, okay? I'm out on Pine Island. I see a fire truck come by, stop at the fire hydrant. 2 guys get out with a paintbrush and a bucket of yellow paint to paint the fire hydrant. Using a $400,000, maybe $500,000, $600,000 piece of equipment to go around painting fire hydrants. The rationale that was put forth to me when I witnessed this was, well, these guys gotta go in a heartbeat because, you know, they might be needed or whatever. My point is this, it's always in the background, in the protocols, into this, into that. You keep on saying the state, the state, the state. It is the state. The state's the reason why we can't pay our teachers in. This is the state, okay? And that's what bothers me about the presentation. You're wonderful. It's nothing personal. It's just that I'm hearing this stuff and I'm like, there's so much stuff in the background that's preventing good stuff from occurring. That's what the problem is. Okay? Really. I've been here for 20 years in South Portland. I've watched it. I've run for state representative twice. And the devil is in the details. And you got a long road to hoe. Okay? Really. You got to get representatives in there who are going to change some of this stuff. You can't start doing things like the rest of the states in the nation. That's what needs to happen.
Do you have enough data to do any kind of metrics now on how many are minority owned? I mean, you asked, but you haven't applied.
Well, it's part of the program, so in order to collect data, we have to define small. So we're here to say, how are we gonna define small? And once we've got that nailed down, we know it's not gonna be 2 million, right? It's gonna be a higher number. So we need to get that number, and then we can go out to our community and ask, you know, so that we can baseline and say, of the people that we're working with, how many of them are small businesses, right? So that is gonna be our baseline data. Very first thing we need to do is define small. So that's the mission we're on right now.
I know you're on that mission, but I would go back to those attorneys and say, is there anything else? Is there any wiggle room here? Because you're making my job tough. Honestly.
Well, and even if it's just salaries, you're talking, you know, anywhere between 200 and 100 and 200K per individual. But if that company's buying equipment, you know, maybe electronics, that you know, sales could go like crazy,
Oh, yeah.
only 5
You're
employees.
a vendor of computer equipment.
Correct.
You know, you've got a 3% margin and your
Right.
sales are 50 million.
Yeah, so, yeah,
So it is net, not gross. So meaning that it's.
Net profit?
So if you did a $100,000 job and $50,000 was, equipment, that would come out of.
Well, I'm talking about measuring revenues
Measuring
of
revenues.
companies.
Okay,
Gross
so what
revenues. You're looking
recommendation
at
do
gross
you,
revenues, aren't you?
net revenues, I believe.
I don't understand that.
yeah, that,
Okay,
that
so
could
what
be
is
one of
your,
the
what is your
problems.
recommendation for the revenue? So we're talking about a number, and so are you talking gross revenue?
I thought we were talking gross
Gross
revenue.
revenue.
I'm not sure
That's
how
what I
else we could be talking, what else we could be talking about.
Well, and, you know, again, the concept of, are you buying labor in that 2 million, you know, because you've got, if you're graphics and information, you've got a few computers and probably a big printer and some other things, but now if you're talking computer equipment, you know, there's just, I don't know, maybe you gotta go figure out the categories of small businesses.
Well, that's right, I was just looking at this chart here.
Yeah.
And all these, the way that these numbers are there, I don't know why they led you this way, really, but, you know,
Well,
like
please share
real estate and
feedback.
rental and leasing. I mean, that could be like one guy.
Right.
There's a leasing guy, you know,
Right.
and there's 1,800 of those.
Yeah.
Well, you don't even use those, you'll never use those, but yet you said, you're looking at these numbers and saying, well, this is 90% of the businesses in Lee County are less than 2 million, so let's use that number. It makes 0 sense to me.
Management companies.
Oh, but we're doing the right thing here.
Because that's gross revenues, and so if you do 2 million divided by 40,000, or an average roof, that would be residential, but that's 50 roofs, it's not, that's not much, but if you're talking about people that are switching out or maintaining grease traps, and it's primarily labor and it's a service dollar visit, that's gonna be a lot more activity. That may be one of the bigger guys in the area for that specific industry, not sure, but I do see to facilitate the process, the district side may need some sort of hard line. The more that you bring out the details and saying something is industry specific, the more complex it becomes. So that's a great argument, well, if there's a roofing company and it's worth $2 million, they can't be doing too many commercial roofs. What's a commercial roof cost? A whole lot of money. So that's definitely gonna limit the amount of people that can even apply that job. But for the other companies, if you're trying to gauge that by industry, it's just going to be too much. Are you going to go through another process and say, okay, so my understanding is that the district wants to better target small businesses through the current process. So I imagine that they'll say, we've got, when they establish their metrics, we've got a 20% goal, 20% of our business is going to go to small business, I'm just making up that number. So then they're gonna identify contracts, would be my understanding, right? They're not going to open every painting contract, you know, for a small business, they'll say, okay, so we've identified these X amount of contracts that we're going to put through this process with small businesses. And then within that process, are they going to look at the industry then? If that number is sort of arbitrary, depending on industry, they're going to look at, okay, this contract that we've identified for the 20% of contracts that are going to small businesses is related to grease maintenance. So let's look at the industry for grease maintenance. And then within that industry, what is the average business size and what would be deemed small? Like that would make the process very complex for the district.
And so in addition to this group, the Construction Advisory Committee has given us a lot of input, and they it's very much what you were just pointing to. They were saying the difference between a construction firm and an architect firm. So they might both have 10 employees, but the construction firm is going to have so much larger revenue because of all the construction that they're doing, whereas the architect is designing the building and doesn't have all the subs and materials that they're buying. So the question that they asked is, could there be different thresholds for different trades? So.
But I don't think 10 million is a bad number.
And I will tell you, 10 million is the number thrown out by the Construction Advisory Committee. I've heard it twice now. I'm telling you that's the direction we'll be heading. And I'll share that when I meet with the Equity and Diversity Advisory Group next week. And so this is a very healthy discussion because we want to do what the business community in the district recommends.
And the process that Chelsea just described is, she did a much better job than I did trying to clarify that point earlier. But the way she just described the process, is that the way it's gonna work?
So the analysis, I will say, what we're looking at is what do we need to buy and where is it where we have small businesses offering those services, so where is that intersection? And based on our history, is that, so I'm not positive, it's Chelsea, is there a piece that I missed that you were referencing that I didn't cover?
Just, you know, you start with metrics, like identifying what a small business is, and then the percentage of the expended dollars that are to go to the small businesses in general, and then it sounds like, how do you go about that once you make that goal would be dependent on where there's opportunity, right? And then you mentioned the intersection, so there may not be small businesses in a certain category, it just doesn't exist. So then, I describe the process, coming up with that strategy and identifying which contracts would apply to, and then those contracts that it would apply to, so let's say it's painting, right? I'm making up numbers, we spend $1 million in painting a year, and we have a goal, and we've identified painting is a great industry that has a lot of small businesses available, there's a lot of opportunity, so then 20%, we're gonna spend 20% of our painting dollars on small businesses, that's our goal at least, right? So we open up the bidding process for 20% of these contracts, for specifically identified contracts to the small business program, and then if nobody applies, now for painting, I would imagine there's plenty of people that could apply, but if marketing doesn't reach them, that could be a possibility. Marketing doesn't reach a specific industry or specific type, so there's not a lot of traction or application. And then another possibility would be that they just don't exist. But if that's the case and there are no qualified bids in that instance, then it would revert back to the normal process.
Yes, that is correct. And the only exception I can think to what you've described is, we have not set goals for target percentage of painting to give away, to compete with, small businesses. The driver's gonna be that intersection of, we have a need and where do small businesses, how can they satisfy that need? So it's that overlap, that's the most important thing is, there are companies here that if we have smaller jobs and we reduced the competition so that the large companies could bid on the large dollar amount of jobs and the smaller companies could bid on smaller jobs, that's That's the thought process. Some people do not like that model. Some people do like that model. We are here to listen as to what the feedback is of the community so that we can move forward with that. And I'm just saying it's 5:20 and Kelly's probably giving me the stink eye over there.
I know I usually say one more, but have.
Soft stop at 5:30, so, yeah.
Could you know, are we looking at, internal versus external? Do we need, I keep going back to this courier. It just aggravates me every time I read the budget and we have 4 people employed as a courier. Are you looking at things that we do currently in-house that could be done on contract out? Because I gotta believe printing, to me, why do that in-house? That sounds like a really good small business. Go find somebody with 3 or 4 employees and do that. So are you looking at things that, is somebody else looking at possible things that we've done in-house we could do out?
Yes, we are always looking at can we outsource and where. Printing, we have a printing bid, been going strong for 12 years. And we have a lot of our local printers because our print shop, we have a lot of specialized equipment that meets the district's needs. And we can say, I need 500 more graduation tickets today. They produce it. So,
That's the one thing that Southwest Florida does not do is performance metrics. You can't get anybody to say, yes, I'll have it done by Tuesday.
right.
Nobody.
So there's some things.
That's cultural.
Yeah.
So there are some things that there are value for, so we have the option for internal versus external printing, and we have a very large printing contract that's been renewed, recompeted multiple times.
So in-house or out-house, Kelly?
We do both.
Okay, no, this thing right here.
Oh,
printed
it's
that?
in-house.
Okay.
Can help.
In order to get it in the time frame we needed it, it had to be in-house. So.
One more comment, I'm sorry, I know we're near the end, but thought that popped in my head. So this, how we described it during this meeting would be a per contract basis with a small business vendor. But I would imagine the district also has like recurring contracts, right, for painting or other needs. So would they consider the ability to graduate from these small business vendors?
Absolutely.
Awarded a one-time contract into becoming a recurring vendor?
Well, I'll clarify, we typically don't put out a contract for a single thing unless that single thing is a new school. So we have continuing contracts with 7 different trades that we say for 3 years, we need plumbers, mechanical engineers, roof consultants, and on all those other trades. And so for that 3-year period, you're, as long as you continue to perform, you're on the rotation list. And when we have a need, we don't know how many roof leaks we're gonna have, but when we have them, we can go to the 7 on-bid roofers and give them work. So as we're recovering from Ian, that's exactly what we're doing. Our contractors that are on have proved that they can perform the work, qualified with insurance and fingerprinting and all those things. They're on standby, ready for work to be issued to them. And as the work pops up, it is issued to them. And so we have for general contractors, the above 200,000 and the below 200,000 total project cost. And so that smaller, below 200,000 is the one that would be that you can get on bid for 3 years to support the district's plumbing initiative for jobs that would, single jobs that would be up to 200,000. And the goal would be to, with this new program, would be for the large firms to only be able to bid on the 200 and over. All right, I'm going to try and go to the next slide.
There's another slide?
Okay, good. All right, so the FGCU is going to administer all that stuff so that there's the district doesn't have that administration burden. They've already got information, they already know how to register, they already have their criteria. we're just kind of merging with them, and they're taking on that registration process for us. And they'll implement whatever criteria is adopted by the district. And after we do our community outreach, we'll go back to the board and present it and share what people stated from each of our committees and let the board make the decision of how to proceed.
Maybe you could send
It's gonna be
the
expensive
small
splitting
business
up companies
announcements
into much
out to the
smaller
5 or 6 committee members, the 5 or 6 committees and their members, so maybe I know somebody that's in the printing business or, you know, PR business or whatever, just another way to get out to the community.
How does this stuff go out to the community? When is?
Well, that's another problem. I don't have anybody in any of the schools, so I get nothing, other than from Kelly and a few others. But, you know, that's
I mean, there's a purchasing department, right?
probably, if we were small business, we would probably get something if we were registered. But you know, you're looking to get more into the community. The people that are on these committees are interested in the community. So, you know, who knows, maybe I know somebody that's a plumber that's looking for a job.
That's why I asked about reaching out to former students.
But you do have
Seems
to
like the first,
establish,
most.
have all these requirements.
I understand.
So this fall, twice a year, we have a vendor open house where we invite everyone from the business community in to learn how to do business with the district, and we explain how to apply for bids. We have FGCU at every one of those so that they could register even before we started this partnership with them. And so those are two things we've been doing for about 7 years, and what we're looking to do to expand education, because really you guys have hit the nail on the head. The burden is filling out that paperwork, especially if English is not your first language. A 25-page packet, it's kind of terrifying to face it. So we're looking at having more educational opportunities, and with FGCU being our partner, having them educate the public and assist. They can assist in filling out those bids for small businesses who are registered with them.
So I was gonna suggest on your next steps, to put another bullet point, to look really hard at how you streamline the package. And look hard at how you can maybe even streamline some of those legal requirements.
Is there a requirement for the contractors to pay the prevailing union wage? I've seen that in other states.
So if it's a federally funded program and the Davis-Bacon Act takes effect, then yes, but less than 3% of our work is.
Is that, okay.
This is Florida. They don't pay here.
Well, my example was I had some cousins that did a job on a government building. And this was 25 years ago. The union wage was $19. They were paying $15.50 to their people. When the job was.
I don't think we gotta worry about that at all.
Well, yeah, right.
At least the people had jobs.
Yeah, you know, so when they went back off the government job, their people said, I want the prevailing wage, and the guy said, I can't pay you that.
Well, you know, this community that we have here, people can't afford firefighters, teachers,
Yeah, I understand.
police officers, cannot afford housing.
Yep.
We're talking about segregating these people now. Special places. I mean, come on. The numbers are all wrong in this area, and it needs to be addressed.
Gotcha. So next month, we'll talk proximity?
I wish you lots of luck. I like you.
Marketing,
What is on the
once
agenda
these
for next
businesses are
month?
identified, the marketing to them.
Then we need to wrap this up.
It's gonna be critical, to get the word out about the opportunity. And I don't think, I think it needs to be very targeted and proactive marketing, not just putting out a notice out there.
But I'm not kidding, I've been in business here 22 years, and that's the first time I've gotten an email from the school district saying, hey, are you interested in bidding on?
We have to do some better marketing to that group.
That's crazy.
We're gonna have success.
I see it as.
If I'm in business, I mean, I'm looking for this.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, I don't know why we have
I'm
to.
sorry, just wait, wait. Say again?
Go ahead, Chelsea, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I see that it is posted to the district Facebook page, like I did a search on their page, because they do post about vendor fairs and things like that, and then if I go and click on share, like who shared it, Debbie Jordan was really active, and also Melissa Giovanelli, they both shared it to, their affected community community groups, it looks like.
Yeah, we had it in the newspapers, we had all
No
the,
lights in the community group, but no announcements, either with the share, like, hey, everybody see below. But, whose job is that? Those are just board members that are doing that on their own.
That's not sufficient.
so we have partnerships, every time we do any of those things, the two, building industry associations, we have, conferences with all of the news media to let them know a month in advance and a week in advance of any upcoming vendor open houses. And the ability to partner with FGCU will expand our marketing outreach. So we are all ears on, I made also a note of sending the list of small businesses to all committee members so that they can share. And so,
Can I go further? Specifically, we need to communicate directly to those businesses that meet the qualifications. Not through me, don't rely on me to get the word out. Don't rely on someone sharing a Facebook post. We need to communicate directly to those business owners that an opportunity exists.
And that is what we are looking to do by partnering. First of all, we have the list of registered small businesses from the
Right.
state, and we have for 7 years been notifying them anytime we have a bid. FGCU has another database of more than 7,000 firms that we are now tucked into so that they can say, you've come to us for help, are you aware of this bid? So it's absolutely, the question you asked is, you need to notify every one of those small businesses? I don't know who the small businesses are. They need to step forward and say, I'm a small
But through
business.
this process,
Right.
if I understood, we will be identifying them.
So through FGCU has identified how many small businesses there are, yes.
Yes, so we know who they are
So we will be.
through FGCU.
Agreed.
Then we need to get that information and communicate directly to Ken.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you need to send an email. No, I kind of agree with Charles. You're out there looking for business, but there has to be a way to be aware of what's happening. Whether it's a website or something. I get all kinds of emails from all kinds of stuff asking.
So for 3 months, the vendor open house was posted on our website and individual web pages and on our Facebook page. So there's always room for improvement in communication, and we are looking to identify more
That's how you
sources.
get more small businesses.
In Lee County, I believe you have to register or have a small business license to operate.
A business license.
So
City and county.
we have a list of people that we could market to.
Right, and we use that list every time we do a bid.
Every time you do a bid,
If they are not registered as a small business,
but they
then
have to be registered to see the devil's in the detail.
Right.
They have to be. Is that too cumbersome for someone or is it another informational thing that we're not getting out to people why they're not registering? Or should we not take that path?
I don't know that I would have answers to that, but what I can say is the amount of outreach has grown substantially every year in terms of communication methods and venues, and it's still not enough. So we need to.
We should just make some flyers and put them in the students, take them home.
We-
They don't do flyers
Well,
anymore.
it's a big job too, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you probably.
Not a single one.
Probably 20% of the business.
No idea what's going
Go
on.
on.
That's true.
And I got a senior.
Senior?
Yeah, and I have no idea what's going on. Last kid. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you very much. We need to go to the next thing and determine what we're gonna do for the next meeting.
Well, it's interesting, on the 13th of March, the current impact fee schedule expires in Lee County, unless the county commissioners do something. So I'd sure like to hear from Mr. Persons
with me, I can give
what the hell the district's doing.
Put down there.
Because it's supposed to go to 100%, and that's never gonna happen. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going on with that. I've been asking that question for 6-8 months, and not kind of getting Dr., what's his name?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. B.
Dr. B, you know, he says, thanks for your input, you know, so.
Yeah, I know, I requested
Requested a meeting.
You know, so,
You know,
Somebody should be talking, and the fact, I don't even care that we know what they're talking about. I would just like to see somebody come and say, yes, we're discussing it with Cecil, Commissioner Pendergrass, Sandelli, somebody, we're discussing impact fees, because where it's, leaving it where it's at is unacceptable, 100% is not acceptable to the building industry, so somewhere in between.
Let's put that on the agenda as a request for our board member report. That is sent to them, that is one of the requests that we're actually looking for when we've never met the person at this committee.
They limited, it couldn't be more than so much percent per year. So right now, they're 5%, they set a new base, and it went from, 45 to 47.5, to 50, to 52.5, and I think they're at 55. So if they could go up another 2.5% for the next 5 years, I think we could live with that. I think the builders could live with that. But again, I'm hearing no talk from, and the school district is the only one that
Do we
has
have
to
any
fight with the
much
commissioners.
business here besides construction? Do we have much business? This is what I'm getting at with the man job.
Oh, yeah.
Getting.
Yeah, there's a ton.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
different types of business.
Oh, yeah.
I remember they did some sort of law recently, not a year or two.
Look around the
ago.
airport, there's huge warehouses, and there's two right along 75,
Yeah,
there's two.
yeah, there's Amazons in town.
Well, not there's two, genetic type facilities that are doing things.
Yeah, I think that's where that's where I think a lot of it lies.
So I can check to see if Adam Malloy could come and do a proximity update. I can ask, because I heard.
Well, that should be on their thing, because if they haven't set a date yet,
Yeah.
I mean, this has been going on for at least 5 years that I know of.
So
Well,
it is, it's going to take place in FY '24. And so,
We asked for dates, so we wanted,
There's a board update, I believe, next week on proximity.
so this will work out.
20-something.
So when you say 24, you're talking about 1 July 2023.
Yes, like it's this next school year.
Yeah, so 15,
Proximity,
17 months, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, can we get an update on that from the next one? You also put it on the agenda that we discuss, future meetings, since things got changed up quite a bit, missing like 4 or 5 meetings.
Right.
Yes.
And can we ask Mr. Persons to talk about impact fees?
Yes, I have that on my list.
Thanks.
What about the budget? We're gonna have a conversation about the budget.
We have not got around to that, that's why I supplied the budget books, and if you all.
The
want to
budget
talk
and
about
debt's
that-
pretty big that we do need to discuss, because that's how Ken and I met on this committee, was that first meeting was about budgeting and about the debt that the district has. We believed that was resolved, with the half-cent sales tax, which I don't think it was,
They're
but.
$500 million in debt.
Yes, and that
they're
doesn't make
spending
sense, because it was only supposed to be for 5 years to take care of $550 million in debt. It was approved for 10 years, and it seems like the debt's much worse than it was before, and we didn't resolve it.
Well, that's
So
why.
remember though, when we went out for the sales tax, we were going as pay-as-you-go. And then as soon as the sales tax passed, so did the law that basically required us to do a COPS and do debt in order to build schools. So we have to take debt out. What we've done is structured the debt to be paid within the timeline of the sales tax. So
The 10-year period.
within that 10-year period, we were structuring all of that to be paid off at the end of that point. Now, because we're so close to the end now, we're now doing COPS that are extending beyond that, which gives us options on how to pay for it. So that the ISOC committee or the sales tax committee has said they do not want the last years of the sales tax to just pay debt. So they want to make sure that we're doing other things with those sales tax dollars. So we're now extending our COPS out beyond that point. We're paying for sales tax while we have it and other sources. So if it's eligible for impact fees, we'll use impact fees and sales tax, and then capital outlay millage in order to pay that debt. The debt was not on our thing. We did not want debt. we were trying to pay as you go.
Yeah, the 550 million, because Kenny, that's where Kenny and I were
Yes.
going back and forth, is this gonna work? And honestly, you're proving he was right now. I was wrong.
Yeah, but we didn't want.
There you go, he perked
Yeah,
up.
We didn't want the debt, that was not what we wanted, it was not our intent, but we were, the new law took place the minute we passed our sales tax, the new law went into effect.
We're gonna let it expire? Because that, it was, like I said, it was originally approved for 5 years.
The sales tax, it was actually, it was approved for 10.
I know, but this committee and the other committees only approved 5. The board extended it to 10.
So, I don't know, my little ball of, is not here, but, I don't know if they're gonna let it expire, if they're gonna go out, I believe the intent is to go out again, but we have a new board, we have, new people, I don't know. So,
What a mess.
that would be probably discussions closer to the time of the end of the sales tax as to what will be happening. And unfortunately, I won't be here for those discussions.
Are you serious?
I'll be
Where you
retiring.
going?
3 years, I'll be retiring.
Oh,
So you're gonna make it, you're gonna cut it right up to the wire and then split.
You know.
You got 3 years left.
Yeah, 3 years, but I won't be here for the end of the sales tax.
That's plenty of time. So, I was gonna ask, is there like a workshop, budget workshop we could watch or something that, like, then we could watch all that and then we get some thoughts and then we could have a meeting here and kind of you go through the budget and you kind of say, hey, this
So
caught my eye, that caught my eye, what about,
from the past budget,
for this year, didn't you have like a workshop budget for this year's budget?
for the FY '23,
Yeah.
yes, and what I can do is send you the dates that we met with the board on each of those different timeframes,
Yeah.
and then you all can look at those.
Then we can watch it and that way we're kind of up to speed on it a little bit.
Okay,
We can go from there, does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm great with that.
Didn't you just recently have one, Kelly?
I'm sorry?
I'm very interested in the budget one
Budget, did you just
and the
recently have
debt
one? Budget workshop?
after the proximity, because proximity
No,
is
the
very
budget was
important.
approved
Well,
in
if-
September.
If we
and
can get
haven't
the
had one
impact
since,
fees up
so-
another 2.5% for the next 5 years.
No one's fought for it though. They've talked about it since 2015, 2016
Yeah, I know,
here,
but-
but it's never happened.
I keep hoping.
That's one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, you wanna put that on? I'm good with that. We can go down that route. Please put the school board, member on notice. That's what we want. We're
Well,
very
let's let the
interested and we wanna
board
know what's going
decide.
on.
And what happens is, the commissioners, I believe, think the half-cent sales tax was there so we could keep the impact fees low. But,
They're not low.
well, they're lower than they should be.
Yeah.
The fire is,
They need to, there's a lot that needs to be fixed by the county commissioners, and if they're not being pressured by the
Right.
district and the stakeholders, then they're not gonna do anything. That's why Mr. Cecil's keeps getting reelected, and it's not being addressed. I don't know if he's trying or not.
Opposed.
Yeah.
He's not opposed,
Yeah.
that's my point.
It's easy to get elected when you run
Unopposed, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right,
It's a problem. I mean, he's been going since I moved down here.
yeah.
It's been a lot of years.
But this is his last,
So, can I give you an update on the insurance?
well, you know it just happened to his aide.
So I know that's been a big thing with this committee pushing to have the, family coverage and stuff. So the Talc and Spout and the district just met and came to an agreement on increasing the board's share for all employees, I think it's to 9,000 and something. And then, giving those employees that have, family coverage, $4,000 towards their family coverage.
Nice.
So that is.
It's a great start. It really is.
Yep, so, y'all have done a great job in being vocal in that and pushing that point, and so that's.
Are they still gonna send out for the RFP like we had? It's been over and over
I thought
again.
the superintendent last time,
Yeah.
way back when, was like,
He
oh
told
yeah,
us,
we're
yeah.
doing that.
He wants to know too. I mean, is this good, bad?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit if I'm wrong, but it needs to go out just to prove one way or another.
So I'll follow up and see where we are. on
Perfect.
that.
Because I know she was supposed to come in February. She's always the one that comes in February. Well, at least we request her in February every year. But yeah, we can go with the other, because I think he's right. We should know what's going on with proximity. And I think everybody will probably be on board. I don't know, I'm not speaking for everyone, but budget and debt management's next, or what the debt is. and how it's being handled and what we need to do going forward, because we are the finance advisory, and we should try to come up if we can with something.
Well, that's what I thought was kind of interesting when Ms. Giddens was here, and I said, don't you think this committee should have some input to the budget? And she looked at me like I was speaking Greek. And I've known Gwen for a couple of years, but it's like, doesn't that what, say right on our, yeah, right there on top of it, that's what our mission statement is, so, it's like, somewhere in my mind, somewhere in the process, before you get the final presented to the board, it ought to come back to the committee, and we said, or somewhere along the line, we ought to be able to say, hey, that doesn't make sense to us, we need help understanding that. I think this one's under, I think that one's over.
It's 2 hours is all we're asking for, is a 2-hour meeting
Right.
before they address the
Correct.
budget one last time,
Right.
to see if we see something they don't. We could, and this is an idea, put forth a motion that before that happens, that it does go to finance to see it's only asking for 2 hours. They could put whichever month they want and put that stipulation on us, and we have 2 hours to come up with an option. If we
All right, I
can,
make
it
that
keeps going
motion.
forward.
Okay, you're gonna have to word that motion exactly how you want it for me, please.
All right, so worded.
I would create the motion stating that the Financial Advisory Committee requests that before any final budget is approved by the Lee County School District, that they place it on the Financial Advisory Committee's 2-hour meeting to see if they're able to come up with any improvements or anything that needs to be brought to their attention as one more check and balance to the system.
That's the motion, I think.
Early enough.
Did you like that?
Yeah,
I mean, we're asking for 2 hours.
Early enough so
Any
they
month you
don't-
mind, and adjust our schedule, it's fine. We'll
Yeah.
take it on and we'll adjust up for that month. If it's June, July, or August, we meet all year long, and whoever's running this committee at that time, that's important. It needs to happen every year, and it should.
Okay, so let me try this right. After I sneeze.
Yes.
Okay, so the Finance Advisory Committee requests before the final budget is approved, the budget comes before a 2-hour meeting of the Financial Advisory Committee for review.
Yes.
Yes.
Do
Okay,
we put a time frame
well,
before they we don't want
there has to be
Get
a
it the
time
week
frame
before,
because
right?
The very next meeting at the finance, or they can do it, when it's presented to the board, immediately send it to us, because there's at least a month in between.
yeah, we need time.
We presented to them in July for the
Great.
tentative budget, and then it's approved in September. So are you talking between the tentative and the September?
Could do, if, depending on when you present in July, you could put on July's agenda, or you could put on an August agenda. But either way, it needs to be, I would think, sending it to this committee to go over it, and that's all we do that next meeting.
Right.
But every year, maybe you do it for August, no matter what, this committee meets in August, and that's our job. And if we come up with something to improve it, great. If we come up with a problem, great. If we come up with nothing, then we give it our blessing.
When's our first meeting usually? Is it usually?
September.
September's the
Yes.
first one, and that one's always like legal stuff.
Yes, so I've
I
always.
like the August meeting.
And we've always approved to go through the summer, no matter what, even during COVID.
As the fourth.
Kelly will tell you, I fought to get it going.
You need to have a part-time legislature so you can get nothing done. That's what you need.
Okay.
Is that the motion?
So who's making the motion? Okay.
Anybody want to second it?
Sure.
I'll second it.
Great. Any discussion? Are we,
Good for the,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Chelsea, you okay over there?
I forgot about that.
We won't grow.
Are you in favor of this one, this motion?
Yeah,
Great.
the review, and that would be, the only comment on that, that'd be a summer timeframe,
Yes.
and so we don't typically have those meetings, but the last 2 years we've. That has to be an ongoing thing.
Yes.
It isn't on, we always do have the meetings. With COVID, there were some challenges that we faced.
Oh,
But we do have the August meeting scheduled on the calendar. Barb made sure that was taken care of in September. So the motion passes at the moment 6-0.
Got it. Okay.
And with that, we have something planned for next month. Do I have a motion to adjourn, unless there's anything else for the good of the order?
Second, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Pleasure, man. Yes, yes.
In the end.
All right,
Well, we know you're gonna be here in August.
You might want to get on some business.
There you go.
Allowed, right? You can't be on the committee if you,
No, you should be able to.
I don't think you're allowed, are you?
Well,
Are you allowed to be bidding on school district business if you're on one of these committees?
That's a good question for her.
I don't think you are.
Come on, Ken, I wasn't gonna ever resign.
I don't,
Take over.
I think if you're doing business with the district, you have to,
Declare.